There comes a moment in life when God begins to shake the ground beneath your feet, not to break you, but to lift you. When elevation is on the horizon, the journey is not smooth. It gets dangerous, it gets uncomfortable, it gets lonely. But those very storms are the signals that God is preparing you for a higher level. Today, I want to share with you the signs that God is preparing you for a dangerous elevation, because the next season of your life requires more strength, more faith, and more courage than ever before. When God begins to prepare someone for a higher level, one of the first things he often does is remove the crowd. The voices that once surrounded you may suddenly go silent. Friends who used to check on you now grow distant. Circles where you once felt included now seem closed off. It can feel confusing, even painful, because you start wondering why the very people you thought would be part of your journey are no longer there. But this isn't abandonment. It's not rejection. It's a divine strategy. Isolation creates the space for transformation. When you're constantly surrounded by noise, you can't hear the whisper of God. When everyone's opinions are weighing on you, you can't discern the direction He's calling you to walk in. That's why He sometimes pulls you away, not to punish you, but to sharpen your ear so you can hear His voice with clarity. In isolation, God begins to reveal parts of yourself you never paid attention to. He exposes weaknesses that need strengthening, habits that need breaking, and gifts that need refining. When you're left alone, you have no choice but to confront yourself. It's in those quiet, lonely places that you start seeing who you really are and who God is shaping you to become. Think about it. Some of the greatest transformations in history happened in solitude. Moses spent years in the desert before leading a nation. David was left with sheep before he stood before giants. Even Jesus was led into the wilderness before his public ministry began. Isolation was not their defeat. It was their training ground. And the same is true for you. When God isolates you, He removes distractions that could dilute your purpose. People who once had influence over your decisions suddenly lose their grip. Their voices no longer hold the same weight, because God is teaching you to lean solely on His guidance. This can feel lonely, but it's actually one of the most intimate seasons you'll ever have with Him. During isolation, your dependence on God deepens. You learn to pray differently. You learn to worship without a crowd. You discover how to keep faith alive when no one else is cheering you on. It's in those quiet midnight moments, when tears fall and answers seem delayed, that your relationship with Him becomes unshakable. Isolation also tests your endurance. It reveals whether your commitment is tied to applause or anchored in conviction. When no one is watching, will you still stay faithful? When the spotlight is gone, will you still pursue excellence? God uses this season to strip away every shallow motive, so that what remains is genuine faith and steadfast obedience. Sometimes, isolation feels like a stripping away of comfort. Familiar routines are disrupted, safe environments are removed, and yet, that very stripping is what prepares you for the new mantle waiting on the other side. You can't carry old baggage into a new season. God removes certain people, habits, and places so you're light enough to climb to higher ground. The beauty of isolation is that it teaches you to stand strong even when you stand alone. You stop relying on external validation and start walking in internal conviction. You learn that your strength doesn't come from who's beside you, but from who's within you. And once you've been strengthened in isolation, no storm, no critic, and no betrayal can shake your foundation. In isolation, God molds leaders, warriors, visionaries, and world changers. He doesn't hide you to hurt you. He hides you to prepare you. And though it may feel like everyone else has moved on, what's really happening is that God is setting you apart. Because elevation requires separation, and preparation always begins with isolation. When you are on the verge of elevation, the battles in your life often intensify. Things that once seemed manageable suddenly feel overwhelming. Conflicts appear out of nowhere, and resistance comes from unexpected places. This is not coincidence. It is the sign that you are moving closer to something greater, and the enemy recognizes it before you do. He knows that if you step into the next level, you will become a greater threat to his agenda. So he throws everything he can to distract, discourage, and derail you. Spiritual warfare in these moments can look like unusual attacks against your mind. Doubt begins to creep in, whispering that you are not enough, that your calling is too big, that your strength is too small. Thoughts of fear, insecurity, and unworthiness grow louder, making you question the very things you once felt confident about. The enemy knows that if he can capture your mind, he can cripple your progress, so he fights hard to plant lies where truth should reign. It also shows up in your emotions. There are days when the heaviness feels unbearable, when discouragement sits on your shoulders like a weight, and when hope feels like it's slipping through your fingers. The closer you get to breakthrough, the more relentless these waves of discouragement can become. This emotional warfare is designed to make you give up, to make you lay down your weapons before the battle is won. Spiritual warfare is not always external. It often stirs within relationships. People you trusted suddenly turn against you. Misunderstandings rise up without explanation. Those you thought would support you seem to resist you. The enemy knows the power of unity, so he tries to sow division and confusion where there should be peace and clarity. The conflicts can feel deeply personal, but they are often a reflection of a spiritual battle raging beyond what the eyes can see. Another sign of warfare is the sudden temptation to return to old patterns. Just when you're about to step higher, old habits and old struggles resurface. It's the enemy's attempt to drag you backward into cycles you already overcame. He knows that if he can pull you into old chains, you won't be able to carry the new mantle. The battle is not about the habit itself, but about keeping you tied down when you were meant to be free. The warfare often touches your physical world too. Delays, obstacles, and setbacks start piling up. Plans that once seemed smooth suddenly fall apart. Finances get tight, health gets tested, and opportunities slip through your hands. These interruptions are designed to make you believe that your path is cursed when, in reality, it's confirmation that you are close to something extraordinary. There is also the battle in your spiritual life. Suddenly, prayer feels harder, distractions increase, and your hunger for the word starts to fade. It's as if everything in you resists the very things that once brought you strength. This is not weakness on your part. It is opposition meant to drain you of the fuel that sustains your elevation. The enemy knows if he can keep you away from the presence of God, he can weaken your fire before you even step into the next season. Spiritual warfare becomes evident when the attacks feel relentless. It's not just one challenge. It's layers of battles pressing in at once. Family, finances, health, relationships, and emotions seem to all collide. You look around and it feels like every area of life is under siege. This concentrated pressure is a sure sign that something significant is about to break through. The closer the blessing, the hotter the battle. It's important to recognize that these battles are not random. They are targeted. The enemy doesn't waste resources on people who are going nowhere. He saves his fiercest attacks for those carrying a destiny that threatens his kingdom. The very fact that the warfare has increased is evidence that there is greatness inside you that he desperately wants to stop. This level of spiritual opposition is not meant to destroy you, but to refine you. It forces you to develop spiritual muscles you didn't know you had. It teaches you to fight with prayer, to stand with faith, to resist with persistence. Each battle reveals a deeper strength. Each struggle sharpens your vision. And each attack pushes you closer to the elevation that is waiting on the other side. When God is preparing you for something greater, one of the clearest signs is the weight that begins to press on your life. This pressure doesn't always have a name you can identify, but you feel it in every part of your being. It's as though life itself has turned up the intensity, and no matter how hard you try to shake it, the heaviness lingers. You wake up with it, you carry it through the day, and you lie down at night with the same burden pressing on your chest. It doesn't mean you are failing. It means you are being molded. Pressure shows up in unexpected places. Tasks that were once easy suddenly feel difficult. Responsibilities that used to flow smoothly now feel overwhelming. You may look at others and wonder why their path looks lighter while yours feels so heavy. But what you don't see is that the weight you're carrying is custom, designed to shape your destiny. Not everyone can handle it, which is why not everyone is chosen for it. The strange thing about pressure is that it often comes without clear explanation. You can't always point to a single reason why you feel stretched so thin. On the outside, people might think everything is fine, but on the inside, you feel the squeeze of something invisible. That's because the pressure is spiritual before it is physical. God is allowing unseen forces to shape your resilience, your endurance, and your capacity to handle the elevation that is coming. Diamonds are formed under pressure, and so are leaders, visionaries, and overcomers. Without pressure, you remain comfortable, soft, and untested. But when the pressure comes, it compresses everything unnecessary and forces out what doesn't belong. What remains is stronger, purer, and more valuable. The same crushing weight that feels unbearable now is what is giving birth to the strength you will need at the next level. Pressure has a way of exposing weaknesses. It shows you the cracks in your faith, the gaps in your patience, and the limits of your endurance. That exposure is not meant to shame you, but to train you. God reveals what is fragile so he can fortify it. He allows the weight to settle so you can learn where you need to lean on him more deeply than ever before. This kind of pressure often feels like constant testing. Just when you think you've passed one challenge, another one arrives. The deadlines keep stacking up, the needs keep multiplying, and the demands feel endless. The reason is that God is building spiritual stamina. Just as an athlete trains by increasing resistance, your spirit is being strengthened by the continual push of life's pressures. You may even notice that during seasons of pressure, prayer becomes both harder and more necessary. It's difficult to focus, yet it's the only thing keeping you afloat. Worship feels heavier, yet it becomes the very atmosphere where the burden lifts. These spiritual disciplines become lifelines because the pressure is designed not just to weigh you down, but to draw you closer to the one who sustains you. There are moments when pressure drives you to the edge of your limits. You feel like you can't take another step, and yet somehow you do. That is the hidden purpose of the weight. It forces you to discover strength you didn't know you had. It reveals that you are capable of carrying more, believing more, and enduring more than you thought possible. It teaches you that your capacity is greater than your comfort zone. Another side of pressure is that it forces clarity. When you're underweight, you don't have time for distractions or unnecessary pursuits. The heaviness makes you focus on what truly matters. You begin to cut away what is draining you and hold tightly to what sustains you. This refining process sharpens your priorities and aligns your steps with greater precision. Pressure is not pleasant, but it is purposeful. It bends you, stretches you, and sometimes even breaks you down, but in the breaking, something stronger is built. What feels like a crushing season is actually a construction site where God is shaping you for a platform you could not stand on otherwise. The heaviness you feel is evidence that your foundation is being reinforced for the weight of elevation that is on the horizon. There are seasons when doors you thought would open suddenly shut in your face. Opportunities you prayed for seem to slip away, and paths that once looked clear are now blocked without warning. It feels unfair because you believed you were ready, you prepared for it, and you even imagined yourself walking through it. Yet no matter how hard you push, the door remains closed. These moments are some of the hardest to accept because the closure doesn't always come with explanation. Closed doors often leave you questioning yourself. You wonder if you made the wrong decision, if you lacked the right qualifications, or if somehow you missed God's timing. The silence on the other side of a locked door can echo loudly in your mind, filling you with doubt and discouragement. But those locked spaces are not always about failure. Sometimes they are about protection. The denial you face in the moment may be the very thing keeping you from walking into something that would have damaged you. Sometimes a closed door is simply a delay disguised as denial. What looks like rejection may actually be redirection. You may be ready in your eyes, but God knows there are details that still need alignment. He knows the unseen conversations, the hidden motives, and the timing that must be perfected. A closed door ensures you are not stepping into something half-formed, but into something fully prepared for your arrival. It can be especially painful when the door that closes is tied to your dreams. You envisioned a future in that career, that relationship, that opportunity, only to find it vanish in an instant. The grief of a closed door is real because you're not just losing a chance. You're losing the picture you painted of what life would look like. This kind of loss cuts deep, but it also creates space for God to paint something greater than you imagined. Closed doors test your patience and trust. When you can't understand why it happened, will you still believe there is purpose in the process? When every no feels like a setback, will you keep walking forward or turn back in disappointment? These moments reveal whether your faith is rooted in outcomes or in the one who orchestrates them. Trust is not proven when everything goes your way. It is proven when you face the silence of a slammed door and keep believing. There are times when doors close not because of where you're headed, but because of what you're leaving behind. God knows that if some doors remained open, you would keep looking back instead of moving forward. So He shuts them even when you beg Him not to, because He knows your future cannot flourish if you stay tied to your past. Closed doors have a way of severing attachments that were never meant to follow you into the next season. You may notice that when one door closes, another often opens in a completely unexpected direction. This shift can be jarring because it doesn't align with your plan. But closed doors are God's way of turning your steps toward paths you never considered. The very place you didn't think of can become the exact place where your purpose flourishes. What feels like loss today may reveal itself tomorrow as divine rerouting. The struggle with closed doors is the lack of explanation. Rarely do you get the why. in the moment. Most of the time, you only understand after you've walked further down the road. You look back and realize that what you once cried over was actually the mercy of God protecting you from what you couldn't see. Hindsight reveals what foresight could not. In the waiting that follows a closed door, something shifts within you. You learn resilience. You develop deeper faith. You stop clinging to what you thought was necessary and start holding tighter to the one who holds the keys to every door. This process refines you, teaching you that access is not about your power, but about His will. When doors close, it's tempting to force them open, but forced doors rarely lead to fulfillment. The season of closure is meant to teach surrender. It trains you to trust timing, to value alignment, and to embrace the mystery of God's ways. It's in these moments that your perspective matures, your patience deepens, and your readiness for true elevation takes shape in ways you couldn't have planned for yourself. There are times when, even though everything in your life looks stable on the outside, something inside you begins to stir with unease. You can't explain it, you can't silence it, and you can't ignore it. It feels like your spirit is unsettled, like you no longer fit in the spaces that once felt comfortable. This restlessness is not a sign of ingratitude. It's a signal that God is shifting you towards something greater. A restless spirit often shows up when the season you are in no longer matches the growth happening within you. The routines, the conversations, the environments that once satisfied you now feel too small. You sense there's more, but you can't quite put your finger on what it is. It's as though the ground beneath your feet no longer fits the size of your steps, and something inside you longs for wider territory. This restlessness can make you feel frustrated because you know you should be grateful for where you are. Yet you can't ignore the feeling that you are meant for more. The conflict between gratitude and longing creates tension in your soul. But this tension is divine. It's God's way of keeping you from settling in places where you were only meant to pass through. A restless spirit doesn't mean you are lost. It means you are being drawn. The unease you feel is the pull of destiny, tugging you out of comfort zones and into new levels of faith. God allows you to feel unsettled so you won't get too attached to a place He is preparing to move you from. If you were completely comfortable, you would never leave, and so He uses restlessness as motivation to step forward. Sometimes the restlessness feels like boredom with what once excited you. The things you used to pour energy into no longer light a fire inside you. It's not that those things are wrong. It's that you've outgrown them. Just as a child eventually grows out of toys that once brought joy, your spirit outgrows assignments that were only for a season. Restlessness is the sign that new assignments are waiting. This stirring can make you feel isolated from those around you. While others are content with the present, you find yourself yearning for something beyond it. You may feel misunderstood because not everyone senses the same pull. But that's because the restlessness isn't for everyone. It's specific to your calling. What feels like discontentment to others is actually divine preparation tailored just for you. A restless spirit often awakens dreams and visions you had forgotten. In the quiet moments, old ideas resurface. Desires you once buried start to come alive again. God uses the unease to resurrect the passions He planted long ago, reminding you that those seeds were never meant to die. The restlessness shakes the soil so that what's been lying dormant can begin to grow again. This restlessness also pushes you to seek God more deeply. Because you don't understand what's happening, you lean in with more prayer, more listening, and more dependence. You begin asking questions you didn't ask before, and you start noticing details you used to overlook. The stirring becomes a catalyst for intimacy, drawing you closer to the one who holds the answers. The restlessness prepares you to let go. It's hard to release the familiar, but the unease keeps you from getting too comfortable. Every time you try to settle back in, that quiet discontentment rises up again, reminding you that you weren't designed to stay where you are. It's as if God is gently, but firmly pushing you out of the nest so that you can discover your wings. When your spirit is restless, it means God is expanding your vision. He is enlarging your capacity and stretching your perspective so you can carry what is coming. The unease you feel is not the end of something. It is the beginning of something bigger. And while you may not yet see where He is taking you, the stirring inside is the compass pointing you toward the elevation He has already prepared. There are moments in life when, right in the middle of struggle, God begins to align you with the right people. These connections don't happen by accident, and they are not the result of coincidence. They are orchestrated meetings, strategically placed encounters that shape your journey and move you closer to destiny. When God is preparing you for elevation, He will never allow you to walk alone. He sends divine connections to help carry you through. Divine connections often come in unexpected ways. You might meet someone in a place you didn't plan to be, through a conversation you weren't supposed to have, or in a season you thought was too dark to birth anything good. But in that unexpected meeting, you realize there was something greater at work. God knows how to cross paths at the exact moment when your spirit is ready to receive guidance, encouragement, or opportunity. One of the signs of a divine connection is that it brings clarity. A single word from the right person can confirm what you've been wrestling with in prayer. They may not even know the weight of what they said, but their presence speaks directly to your situation. It's as if God uses their voice to echo His own, reassuring you that you're on the right path. These connections are not always lifelong relationships. Some are temporary but purposeful. A mentor may enter your life for a short season to impart wisdom you need for the next level. A friend may walk alongside you just long enough to strengthen your faith in a difficult moment. Even short encounters can carry eternal significance because the timing is divinely appointed. Divine connections are also characterized by alignment. They don't push you away from your calling. They push you deeper into it. They remind you of who you are and challenge you to live at the standard of your destiny. When God sends the right people, they don't compete with your purpose. They complement it. Their presence sharpens your vision instead of blurring it. Sometimes, divine connections replace what was lost. After doors close and relationships end, God often introduces new people who fill the gaps left behind. These new relationships may not look like the ones you lost, but they carry the substance you need to move forward. Where rejection removed support, divine connections restore it with even greater strength. Another mark of a divine connection is that it often requires humility. To receive from the people God sends, you must be willing to learn, to listen, and to trust. Sometimes the person carrying your next level of wisdom doesn't look like what you expected. They may come from a different background, have a different perspective, or speak in ways you're not used to. But humility opens the door to receive what pride would reject. Divine connections also provide protection. The right people will pray for you when you can't pray for yourself, encourage you when you feel like giving up, and speak truth when lies are clouding your vision. God places them around you not just to celebrate your victories, but to help guard your spirit in seasons of warfare. Their presence becomes a shield in moments when the battle feels overwhelming. When God is preparing you for elevation, these connections multiply your impact. Alone you can do much, but with the right alignment, you can do far more than you imagined. The people God sends often carry keys, resources, or knowledge that unlock doors you could not open by yourself. Through them, He provides access to opportunities that position you for greater influence. Above all, divine connections remind you that you are not meant to walk this journey in isolation. While elevation requires seasons of solitude, it also requires the strength of community. God designs your path so that the right hands reach out at the right time, pulling you higher and walking with you into places you could never reach alone. There are seasons when you begin to notice doors opening that you did not knock on, opportunities presenting themselves that you did not chase, and blessings showing up that you cannot logically explain. This is what happens when unusual favor rests on your life. It is not something you earn by effort, nor is it something you achieve by status. It is the hand of God tilting circumstances in your direction, aligning events in your favor, and granting you access that doesn't match your somme. Unusual favor often looks unfair to the natural eye. People around you may wonder why you were chosen, why your name was called, or why the opportunity landed in your lap instead of theirs. What they don't see is that favor is not about human selection. It is about divine election. God places His hand on you in such a way that even when others overlook you, He ensures that the right doors swing open at the right time. This kind of favor becomes most evident in seasons of struggle. While the storm is raging, you suddenly find provision in unexpected places. Resources come from hands you never thought would bless you. Solutions arrive at the very moment you thought the situation was about to collapse. It is in the middle of pressure and warfare that unusual favor shines brightest, because it reminds you that God is not limited by circumstances. Unusual favor doesn't always mean everything becomes easy. Sometimes it means things work out in ways that defy logic. You might not skip the struggle, but you see victories that don't match the odds against you. You find yourself walking through battles that should have broken you, yet coming out with strength, wisdom, and even promotion on the other side. The only explanation is that favor carried you when ability alone could not. There are moments when unusual favor positions you in places far beyond your natural reach. You may sit in rooms you never expected to enter, stand on platforms you never imagined, or receive opportunities you thought were reserved for someone else. That's because favor bypasses qualifications and overrides limitations. It places you where only God's hand could place you. Unusual favor is also seen in the way people treat you. Strangers extend kindness, authorities grant approval, and even adversaries end up playing a part in pushing you forward. The same mouths that once criticized you may be used to recommend you. The same hands that once tried to hold you back may end up lifting you higher. Favor has a way of turning opposition into cooperation, all because God orchestrates it. Another mark of unusual favor is acceleration. What would normally take years begins to happen in months, and what should take months begins to unfold in days. Progress feels faster than your preparation, but that's because God is redeeming time and pushing you into alignment with destiny. Favor compresses the process so that you arrive at the appointed place right when you are meant to. This favor is never about your glory, but about God's purpose. He gives it so that His name can be lifted through your story. He allows you to experience blessings you didn't expect so that you become a testimony of His goodness. The favor on your life is meant to be a reflection of His faithfulness, drawing others to see His power at work. Unusual favor also carries responsibility. When God opens doors for you, it's not just so you can enjoy them, it's so you can steward them well. Favor requires humility, discipline, and wisdom. Without those, the gift can be wasted. But when you recognize that every blessing comes from His hand, you learn to walk in favor with reverence, giving back the glory that belongs to Him. When you live under unusual favor, you stop relying solely on what you can do and start trusting what God can do. You no longer strive to force outcomes because you've seen how He moves on your behalf. You carry yourself with quiet confidence, knowing that even in the face of impossibility, there is a divine hand arranging details for your good. Favor becomes the invisible force guiding you into the elevation that was waiting all along. Would you like me to continue with point 80? Overflow of relentless opposition, or would you prefer I follow the original order and expand on your point 8? Maybe unusual favor is followed by signs God prepares. So do you want me to expand the next official point in your list? So if you're feeling the fire, the pressure, the attacks, the loneliness, don't run from it. Lean into it, because these are not signs of defeat, they are signs of destiny. God doesn't waste pain, He uses it as the launching pad for promotion. Dangerous elevation requires dangerous faith. And if you stay faithful in the valley, you will be trusted with the mountain. Your next level is coming. The struggle is proof. The fight is confirmation. The pressure is the prophecy. God is preparing you for a dangerous elevation, and when it comes, no force in hell can stop it.